Apologies. Hello, everybody. I clicked. See, OBS, the way it works is you got a start streaming button, and then you got a go live button for YouTube, which is very weird, I guess. So I guess I clicked one and not the other. So we missed qualifying, but you didn't miss a lot of action. Sorry about that, everybody. But this is
we well,
we got the part that matters.
I'll try to repeat the things that we said over the last 20 minutes then.
Yeah, now we got more info for the race. But
Yes, so the qualifying session, just as a quick recap, was difficult. The track is hot. These drivers are struggling. There's a lot of mistake generator turns here, and I think that we will see an electric first few laps.
yes, we will. Here is our grid for the night, because we did miss qualifying. You can take a look at it now. Ryan Tyler takes pole, followed by Tyler Langenberg. Ryan Tyler really took pole by 4/10.
Mark Dillon Jr., Zach Nurnberger, Tony Watson, Antoine DeCache, Ryan Glover, Nick Terrell, and Christopher Craig.
Wi-Fi is having a little issue today. 19th place is taken by Zach Nurnberger, then Tony Watson, Antoine DeCache, Ryan Glover, Nick Terrell, Christopher Craig, Steve Bartlett, James Foreman, Daniel Barnett, Matt Odell, Michael De La Sala, and Daniel Hingley rounds out the top 30. I believe that's all we have, 30 cars tonight. So we're in for quite the race.
And it's going to be a long pace lap. This is an older track in iRacing, so that means that it's going to be a full lap pace lap.
Yes, hopefully that gives the Wi-Fi a chance to sort itself out and provide a clean viewing experience for everybody.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at this race, and we're looking at, potential favorites, Ryan Tyler with that gap that he has from first to second is really impressive. We don't see that kind of gap between any of the other drivers after that. So he's put in a really great lap in qualifying, and he had the fastest lap last week. So I think that he's a very real case for the win. Obviously, he's starting in first, which is a huge plus for that. But we saw that he had the pace last week and just had a little bit of an unfortunate moment with some other cars coming out of pit lane. He definitely could try to make up for that with a win today.
Yeah, he definitely can. Down in GTD, we've got Daniel Rial, Christopher Newby, and Keith Roycroft. Daniel was not so much up there last week, but Christopher Newby, Keith Roycroft, and even Mark Dillon were all in there for the win at some point.
It's especially interesting, too. We get Real, Newby, and Roycroft are all starting next to each other. Obviously, the classes grid together, just where they qualify. Those three drivers are all next to each other. There is a 5 pro cars between Roycroft and Dillon Jr., but those standing podium places for GTD are on track looking at each other right now.
Before we go green, I'm gonna try to fix the Wi-Fi here. This is Shane.
Yes. Are we gonna have to radio broadcast this for a few minutes? Fair enough. I'll try to inform everybody of how it goes. The green flag just went out. Again, they can't pass until turn 1, so not going to be seeing anything right now. Everyone pretty orderly into turn 1. Ryan Tyler still maintains first, and we still have Daniel Real in first for GTD. not really any passing areas in this first bit of the track, so we may see these drivers kind of start to pull a gap to each other before any early lap moves can be made. But I'm keeping my eye out, seeing if anything happens here.
And again, we have that first lap no passing rule. So anybody that does get very aggressive in not the first lap, the first turn, but the first lap crash penalty, anybody that does get pretty aggressive will have problems later on in the next race.
And not just aggressive, but also, if you push yourself too much and you make a mistake and it impacts another driver. But looking at the drivers right now, Paul Boyle has already fallen off quite a bit from the top. Oh, and Patrick Ripley has crashed. It looks like he does not have very much damage, but Patrick Ripley has crashed. So we're already seeing some stuff going on. Christopher Newby has actually made his way past a couple pro drivers, but he is still behind Daniel Real. So the race lead is still Ryan Tyler with Tyler Langenberg right on the back of him. A little bit of a gap back to Terry Calgary Jr. and then a huge gap back to Paul Boyle. Not sure what mistake Paul made, but he's got a lot of drivers stacked up behind him, such as his teammate, Nick Paletti, and Marcus Osborne. We are now coming to the conclusion of lap 1. So we've seen a couple front runners crash already, which is really surprising. But again, if it is hot and these drivers didn't get their tires in a proper temperature coming up, through that really long pace lap, then it's really maybe not that much of a surprise. No passes going on in the turn 1, but the field is really close right now, and we're still looking at that top 3 really pulled away from 4th place as far as the overall race lead. Keith Roycroft is still in 3rd for GTD AM. He is behind Patrick Ripley, who I mentioned had made a mistake early in the race. Ripley qualified 3rd and made a mistake in Oak Tree. So now he has dropped back 5 or 6 positions. But the top 3 for GTD Pro currently are Ryan Tyler, Tyler Langenberg, and Terry Calgary Jr. Oh, and that is another mistake by Patrick Ripley, and that's a bigger shunt. That's going to be a pit. His rear wing's damaged. So that's not going to be a back-to-back win for Patrick Ripley. Matt Odell has a small spin. But looking at the GTD-AM, we have Daniel Real, followed by Christopher Newby, followed by Keith Roycroft. And it looks like we almost have the video stream back up.
Yes, we are on our way back. We just have to load in all of the information from the hour session that we were out. There we go. The Wi-Fi, the bit rate
is starting right now.
All right, we've made it back, going into lap 3. Sorry for the delays, everybody, but we're back. So here we see Anton Cash in that beautiful BMW there.
Looking back at, I mentioned the incident Patrick Ripley had. I don't think he knows how much damage he has because he elected to not pit there to fix his damage. I don't think he realizes how messed up that rear wing is on his Audi. Bryce Anderson just spun in turn 1.
It's possible that Patrick Ripley is happy with the pace that he has right now. Here's a replay. It says Zachary Nurnberger had an incident. Doesn't look like much happening though.
Oh, you lost it at the end of that.
Oh. All right.
Yeah, that was NASCAR left. It's just a really tough one to figure out your braking point on there. Or NASCAR bend, my mistake. There's just nowhere to see where to brake. It has to be a lot of instinct, and you have to really practice it quite a lot to be able to do it consistently. It's a long race.
It's definitely a tricky sequence of corners there.
We actually currently, Daniel Real spins out in the roller coaster. He's going to lose first place for GTD-AM. And Keith Roycroft will now take first place. I was just about to mention that Keith Roycroft had got around Christopher Newby during this lap. And now he's gotten around Daniel Real as well.
So that's what happened to Daniel Real there.
Great save. Incredible. But does lose the position.
Indeed he does. Daniel Hingley has a moment. Let's see what happened to him. Going down the back straight, the same place we just saw the Daniel Real. Real. Ooh, just a little too much.
The thing is with that corner, you come up on it, it's a little bit of a blind apex. It's a lot tighter than you expect it to be, and it spooks you. And all of a sudden, you're carrying way too much speed into it. You try to crank the steering, and you spin out just like he did and just like Dan Real did. It's just can take you by surprise.
It definitely can. And now Ryan Tyler out in front already has a 1 second gap within 4 laps of this race.
Yeah, it was actually closer earlier. Tyler's fallen back a little bit, but those top two, Ryan Tyler and Tyler Langenberg, are starting to pull away from Terry Cocker Jr.
Yeah, they definitely have the pace. Now Tyler's back in within a second, but they are running away while the midfield is a lot tighter than I'd expect to see, at least. It's just the train
drivers
right
are
now.
doing a good job following each other.
Seems everybody is similar in pace with that slipstream down the back straight. As we see Paul Boyle here, that number 14, the Rainbow. He chose the McLaren today, which is was not used by anybody in the last race.
It's an interesting pick, but we do know that he and his team did tons of practice for this race. So they tried all the cars, and I guess Paul had tried all 8 and found that he was having the best experiences with the McLaren here. It's not usually a popular pick for most tracks, but maybe it suits him for this one.
Yeah, it definitely, he looks pretty good out there in 4th. And let's see his teammates at Doge Squad. Aaron Claybaugh chose to go with the Ferrari. And the other one in Doge Squad, Paletti, is... What is he driving?
He's in the Ferrari as well.
He's also in the Ferrari. So that's what they chose tonight. The iRacing lap record around this place in the GT3 cars is a 142.197, so almost 4 seconds faster.
Oh, Marcus Osborne making a move. He's got that more up. Going into the climbing S's, that was brave. Sending on Nick Paletti. Splitting the 2 teammates of Paul Boyle and Nick Paletti. That took a lot of confidence.
There he goes, driving right by.
Now we'll see if he can take on Paul Boyle in front. It seemed like Paul Boyle was maybe holding back Paletti a little bit. So if Marcus Osborne was able to get around Paletti, then maybe he has the pace to pass Paul Boyle as well.
It's definitely possible. Alrighty.
Interesting to see down that back stretch. It looks like Tyler Langenberg in the BMW, whether it's his exit out of Oak Tree or if it's the top speed of his car, he seems to be a lot faster down that stretch than Ryan Tyler. And so when they come up onto roller coaster every single time, they end up getting a lot closer. It was 3/10 at the line between the top 2.
Yeah, now they are within 5/10, but that's after the braking zone, and in the corner they're back right down within 4/10. Tyler Langenberg, I know we said that Ryan Tyler was so much faster here. Looks like Tyler Langenberg is not out of winning this race in any sort.
Absolutely not. I mean, he was, as we saw, almost 4/10 off in qualifying.
Our previous race winner last race in GTD AM goes for a little rally cross, maybe. Oh,
no.
No.
Wow. Oh man. Okay, so I was expecting to see. I think that was Zachary Nurnberger back there who went off to the left. And maybe Newbie saw that and got a little spooked and accidentally turned in a little bit. I think that was just a few bad things happening at once.
Yeah, it looks like David Levine was in that mess there, along with Christopher Newby, and I'm not sure who the third person was, but unfortunate for them. Back to Tyler Langenberg. He's 2/10 now in the slipstream. Oh,
Yeah,
he's going to make
faster
that
down this
pass
back
any
stretch
day.
every time.
go into the braking zone. Not going to do anything with it, though.
No, you have to be side by side going in. It can be done, but you can't be dive bombing that corner. It's not something that's going to work.
Definitely is very tricky.
Again, I want to call attention back to the fight right now for 4th and 5th in GTD Pro. Paul Boyle and Marcus Osborne. We had just postulated about if Osborne could then make a move, and he almost passed into turn 1 here last lap. Almost passed going into the roller coaster. He's putting Paul under a lot of pressure right now.
He is indeed. Our GT4 champ last season.
So much better on the brakes.
Oh,
tiny collision. Tiny collision. That was that Paul was almost about to lose it as it was. So he hit the brakes mid corner. That's a racing incident there.
A little bit.
Oh
too
no,
much.
Osborne gets a little bit loose there in NASCAR Bend as well.
Yeah. Rough race here. Christopher Craig. I don't know. There's so many cars in this. They are so tight, right behind each other. They separate out, however, for the NASCAR Bend. Into left hook. You see the NASCAR Bend once more with Christopher Newby.
Christopher Craig is in third for his class of GTDM. But I think that one thing we need to call attention to that has been forgotten here is that Keith Roycroft has a 10-second gap to second place for GTDM. We saw that he got pole position last week. Had just a couple bad things happen during his race. We'll see if he can turn it around for this one, because he's certainly in a commanding position.
Yeah, there he is in that Stars and Stripes Audi right there. I think part of that huge gap that he has is he qualified up front. There's 2 people with him, and that was Daniel Rial and I believe Newby, and they have both had incidents or crashed or spun or something. So he kind of just drove away with it. He had a few pros separating him from the rest of the people in his class, and then that was history for him.
Yeah, I mean, this was during the 20 minutes that we accidentally didn't broadcast, but coming up into the race, this is what we kind of expected, was that a lot of drivers were going to make mistakes, but it wasn't going to take them out of the race. They were going to be crashing into the wall and being out of the race. They were going to be able to just go off into the grass, lose some time, and it was going to make for a really exciting race that didn't lose drivers.
Yeah, here we see Paul Skip going up the inside of Keith Roycroft there in turn 1.
Yep, Keith's in first by quite a lot for his class, so he's happy to just let people by to play it safe.
I'm sure he is. Although, if I was Keith, I wouldn't let people like too easy, because that buffer there is always nice. But I guess if they are battling and costing you time, just let them by. I see where he's coming from.
Sometimes it's hard to drive, even if you know the person behind you is being patient. It's hard to drive comfortably when a car's right there in your rear mirror.
It is. It takes just one lapse of judgment to end up getting absolutely smashed from behind.
Well, we keep paying attention. There's so much stuff to look at, but we just a couple laps ago we were talking about the Osborne Boyle thing. Boyle has now fallen back, I think, further than he already was, unless he had a further excursion spin off by James Foreman there. Not too much lost.
Bryce Anderson goes off track in that Tennessee Porsche right there. Just a little bit too much.
Ooh.
Going up to South Bend.
Wow, that is an excursion.
He's going to go on a...
you don't even know what camera to go to on that.
A trip through the grass there, and he's now joining in the middle of the straight.
That may give him a black flag. That, like, actually... that may have ended his race. When you cut that much track, iRacing usually gives you more than just a slowdown.
Yes. He had a 16-second off-track excursion there. Which is unfortunate for him. I really got to pay attention to the off-tracks today, because instead of listing them as crashes, they are listed as off-tracks, and those are not as prominent. So hopefully we can catch most of the incidents.
Yeah, I don't think that we're. I mean, you know, we'll see if that's the case, but I'm not sure if we're going to see anybody get 0x for this race.
Yeah, speaking of incidents and incident points, last round in Daytona, only 9 people scored the safety bonus out of, 32 people? So
Yeah, it was something like that.
we're going to see that definitely playing into the championships later in this season.
They're big points. I mean, like, the safety points are more than a position gain. So if you get safety points, the guy in front of you didn't, you scored more points for that race.
Yes, and speaking of Bryce Anderson, that's Paul Skip off track there. Bryce Anderson, after his rallycross adventure, he pulled into the pits. I'm assuming he had some sort of drive-through or stop and go.
Most likely. That was cutting out maybe a third of the track right there.
Here's Paul Skip finally rejoining the track. He spent 18 seconds off track parked there. I'm not sure if that was on account of just the cars coming and he couldn't rejoin, or maybe he had to fix some sort of technical issue.
I mean, the cars certainly don't drive through the grass very well either. Depending on how far you find yourself out there, you can lose a lot of time.
Yeah, it seemed like he was just parked facing the right direction, so I'm not sure. But he's back on track, and that definitely didn't help him because he's down in P13 now.
It's great. We are, over 15 minutes in, and I don't think any drivers have left the session yet. So certainly I've seen lots of mistakes, but drivers still feel like there's stuff to gain in this race for sure.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot to gain. I think a lot of people are thinking in their minds, even if they go off track early in the race, people are going to crash. They're going to hit the barriers. There's going to be incidents. So as long as they come back and drive, it's early in the race, they can come back and save those points.
Watching some of these drivers' onboards, it's very interesting seeing how the track temperature is affecting them. I've seen, I'm trying to keep an eye on the overall race lead right now with Ryan Tyler and Tyler Langenberg. And Langenberg through South Bend, which is the corner before the very difficult uphill Oak Tree, just seems the back steps out just a little bit, and you can hear a little bit of tire screech. I don't think that these drivers are having their wheels really sticking to the ground very much in this race.
No, that hot track that we talked about before the broadcast is definitely playing into this. Paul Skip spent 41 seconds in his box, so that is a stop and go for his excursion. Mackenzie Johnson asked in the chat, is it a Merc heavy field? Well, there's our manufacturers up on the timing tower. Ooh, as Tony Watson and Ryan Glover have an incident in one of the final sections. It's not a super Merc heavy field. It does look like they are one of the more popular cars, however. Especially last week at Daytona. Mercedes, despite not scoring a win, are leading the manufacturers' championship because they entered 12 cars into the race, as opposed to the next highest was BMW with 8 cars.
Yeah, it's we're definitely seeing a I feel like a larger selection than we got last week. Multiple drivers in really any of the given cars, although with a couple oddballs thrown in there, like Paul Boyle in the McLaren.
For sure. Somebody wants to see the Adamo Porsche. I'm not exactly sure who has that car, so just let me know and I'll give you a little view of that. James Foreman goes off track here. See what happened to him. A little bit too much through the NASCAR bend, but not a huge incident for him. He can drive straight back on track after it's safe to do so.
Yep, that was a nice save there. Easy to make the mistake there. Sometimes it's hard to... I scrolled through the cars. Matt Odell is in the Adamo Porsche.
Matt Odell. All right, let's take a look at
10th
it.
place for GTD right now.
Here he is. It's a beautiful car. The Porsche 911 GT3R.
Going through an iconic VIR corner there. Named Oak Tree, obviously because of the oak tree, but in real life, the oak tree is not there anymore. Unfortunately, it collapsed.
Yes, and that was 2013, did you say?
Yes, July 1st, 2013. The tree just collapsed, and there was just no saving it.
Very unfortunate. Tyler Langenberg had a slight off track, but I don't think it was anything much because he came on the track within 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, that's just one of those where he got a little bit wide on one of the corner exits, but kept it in. He's still hounding Ryan Tyler. It's just he hasn't really been close enough to make any moves, but he certainly is fast enough to stay on the pace.
Yeah, that slipstream is definitely helping him. That may be one of the things that's keeping up there, but he just can't get close enough out of the oak tree corner. There he is.
This is one of the closest he's been. It's just not quite enough. I don't think that he's going to have the run. Although Tyler is getting a little bit defensive there. It's just short. It's just short. He just needs that much more, just a couple more miles an hour, and he'd be able to make a move going into that. But he has to try to size up somewhere else for the time being.
We definitely will see that happen sometime during this race. It may be in the last lap, but I think we're going to see a great battle at the end here.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter when you pass him. It's just that you do. So we are 20 minutes into a 100-minute race, although he is certainly eyeing a move here. Tyler going very defensive on the inside.
Not going to make it happen, however.
No, Tyler did a good job occupying the inside there.
Yes. In a moment, we'll take a look at what happened to Daniel Barnett. He had to tow back to the pits. Doesn't look like much is happening with these two at the moment, so we'll take a quick look.
Coming through Snake. Yeah, that's about as big of a collision as you can get on this track.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That's one of the only corners where a mistake will send you to the wall. These Volkswagen logo displaying barriers there.
Yeah, you pointed that out in the pre-race during qualifying. That was one of the few places where the walls were very close. It's definitely a place that you don't want to be. Oh, Ryan Tyler loses it in the oak tree. Langenberg avoids him, stays on track. He's going to occupy first place.
He's going to reverse straight back. That's Terry Calger Jr.
messy.
almost collecting him. Good job by Terry to avoid him. Oh, unfortunate. What happened there? Let's take a look at the cockpit, maybe.
Just a little bit too much speed.
Just couldn't keep the rear end behind him. That seems to be one of the problems with Mercedes recently. The new one especially. It's definitely a little oversteery. I mean, I guess that's been...
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely been like that for longer than this new Mercedes has been around. But at least for me, driving this new one is just oversteer central.
It has the tendency to have some off-throttle oversteer, and that was the kind of event that Ryan Tyler had there up at the oak tree.
Yeah. Zachary Nurnberger in P18 overall, however, here he takes P6 in class.
Yeah, going into oak tree. That's not a common place to pass. I think De La Sala just kind of backed off a little bit to avoid any collision. But that's a tough. That's actually in season 2, as you have written down. That was a collision location between Zach Nurnberger and Marcus Osborne. Still a sore spot between those two drivers today, but that didn't stop Nurnberger from trying it again.
Yes, and he did keep it clean this time, and now he's up into P6. So we'll see what happens over the whole course of the race.
Update to pay attention to here. Mark Dillon Jr. there, second place for GTD Am. Cut the gap from when we talked about it last was 8 seconds down to 1.6 seconds to Keith Roycroft in front.
Yes, he did, and here is what it looks like on the battles box. Definitely coming down.
Consistently going down.
That's a 5-lap span there, and he's cut it down about a second and a half.
Well, going from 5.1 seconds to 1.7, I mean, that's
even more than that.
Over 3.4 seconds.
Yes. So we'll see that battle come to fruition pretty soon if we keep our eyes open. Here's Paul Boyle, who said he raced almost 4 race distances in practice, which is just under 7 hours.
It's more than I've done for any race ever, I can tell you that.
Yes. Keith Roycroft, our GTD Am leader,
Early pit.
comes into the pits.
Oh, no, actually, I have to update is that the drivers have a smaller fuel tank than they did last week. So, actually, we may not see that much longer before the cars. I believe it's 50%. They were running at a much higher percentage of fuel for last week's race.
Very, very true. I completely forgot. That was on the opening race screen. I believe that it was up when the stream was actually going. So the drivers have 50% fuel as opposed to Daytona last week, which was 80% cap. Keith Roycroft is out of the pits with a 21-second stop. Tony Watson.
And he has to slow down there. 2 drivers going off in front of him that he had to avoid. Not the best outlap.
Let's see if we can take a look at that. Here's Ryan Glover. No, that's not it.
Yeah, the just as a frame of reference, a tank of gas on a GT3, a full tank, usually goes about an hour. You can do more than an hour. So having these drivers at 50% fuel, we're probably expecting half an hour before they pit. Yeah, so this driver, Matt Odell, did a good job not to crash into Keith Roycroft, but Roycroft did have to slow down to avoid that.
Yes, that is what gave him some trouble.
If Mark Dillon Jr. has some good in-laps, we could be seeing a swap for that net position when Dillon comes out of the pits.
We definitely can. I think the fuel battle is going to be quite interesting. We haven't seen any alternative strategies come just yet. As we saw, Zach Nurnberger pulled one of those last week. He pit very, very early.
Yeah, he pit as early as he could make it, where he could have about 3 equal length stints. But we should be looking at a 3 pit stop race. It's really easy to gain and lose time in pit stops, so that's a skill that you have to practice at each track. And with 3 pit stops during this 100-minute race, it's very important.
It is very important, but Keith Roycroft into turn 1. What happened to him? Just a little bit too much. Same thing that Matt Odell did just a lap ago. He had to avoid. There's Antoine DeCache, and the people behind him managed to avoid it. But
just barely got out of the way.
That's going to throw a spanner in the works for Keith Roycroft. He did have that pillow of about 10 seconds behind him, but I'm sure that's not going to help.
Yeah, that is Dillon Jr. for sure with the net P1 for GTDM, unless something goes really wrong with this pit cycle. But I mean, Roycroft only had 2 seconds on him, and then a bad outlap, and then that there. I mean, Dillon's. I don't know if he knows that happened, Keith, but he's looking at a first place, and he's coming into the pits right now.
He definitely has a very good chance at taking that P1 for sure. If Mark Dillon Jr. takes the win tonight, it will be his 14th ever Pony Express career win. And Tyler Langenberg up in the top 3. If he takes the win, it will be his 17th.
Yeah, Langenberg is the reigning champion of open wheels for amateurs, which is the series that we run with the Dallara F4. So he has that championship to his name, and he certainly is. He's actually not in O4A this season to defend it, but he's trying to go for the E4A champion this season.
Yeah, and along with that O4A championship, he also has the Dark Horse open wheel that only ran for 1 series. 1 season. So he, other than Dennis Diaz, the 5-time Pony Express champion, Tyler Langenberg is the only person with more than 1 championship to his name.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. So many seasons so far, so many different series. But it just goes to show how hard it is to actually win it all.
Sorry to interrupt, but here's Daniel Hingley. What happened to him? Just doesn't want to race anymore, I guess.
Bizarre.
Has to go somewhere or something. I'm not sure. Be joined back here, though. Here's Mark Dillon Jr., followed by Antoine DeCache.
Not for position, but...
Oh!
Wow, he loses it. Nope. Oh, is he going to stay?
Oh! What a save.
That's an act of God right there.
Wow, let's take another look at that. The fact that nobody got injured, nobody got hurt is quite insane. Just dips a tire into the grass.
Yeah.
Takes a little shortcut.
Wow.
Wow.
The car just snapped. I can't believe that he was able to save it. I mean, I'm sure his first thought was just trying not to hit everyone around him, but to even stay on the track and lose probably, what, like 4/10 or something like that?
He probably did end up with a slowdown, however, but still very, very impressive. Here's Daniel Hingley going off track. That's Nicholas Paletti. Here's Daniel Hingley going off track. He had towed, so I'm not sure what's going on for him right now. He slowed down, and now he started going again and then hit the wall. Maybe VR issues? That could have been him talking about that earlier. No, that was Dan Barnett. So I'm not sure what's going on for him. Yeah, Daniel Real going off track, and Zach Nurnberger as well. We'll take a look at him. That seems to be him up front. Yep, just dipping a tire into the grass.
Pretty light collision, though. Right next to each other, but not related.
That's Zach.
Oh, and
Patrick went off track as well. Patrick Ripley. As he hits.
Oh
no.
I don't know if he knew that the car was there coming around.
It is a very blind corner.
Yeah, that wasn't an unsafe rejoin by the car in front, but that's Patrick's pit there.
Yeah. Wow. So as we discussed earlier, VIR is a very, very, very tricky and tight track in terms of keeping it on the track.
Patrick Ripley has disconnected. He has left the session.
He's going to call it a night. That's the championship leader, leading by only 3 points. But he is going to secure the Ironman bonus for today. Matt Odell, see what happened to him going into turn 1. Disappears, reappears.
Teleports out of existence.
Just a little bit too much going into the braking zone. And goes slightly off track. Not a big problem for him.
Turn 1's given drivers a lot of problems. It's not the one that I would have pegged as like the most difficult turn on the track, but maybe with these conditions, something about it's really tough.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it the hardest corner on the track in terms of...
I'd say Oak Tree right there might be.
Yeah, in terms of speed and how little time you have to really get those inputs in. But the braking zone is very tough in terms of slowing the car down. So he's not going to go off track flying and, crash into the barrier. But if you get the braking zone just the tiniest bit wrong there, you will end up going off track. I experienced that quite a bit. There's Tyler Langenberg having a moment in Oak Tree. But it's not going to cost him too much.
That's him in the race lead, so him being able to save that was important.
Yes, he is our current race leader, and that man that had a wonderful save earlier, Mark Dillon Jr. Oh, hold on. We will get back to that. Here's James Foreman, again, turn 1. I want to say he just missed his braking point and went a little bit too deep again. Just like that.
That's exactly what Matt Odell did in the previous lap.
It's a very easy thing to do. Anyway, Mark Dillon Jr. Out in first place right now. Very good performance by him. We saw him almost going off track as well earlier, or he did, but almost crashing him but saving it.
Yeah, I made the very safe, admittedly very safe bet that no drivers would be able to escape this race with 0x. Well, we're not even close to halfway through, and I'm already correct. There's no drivers who have not had a single incident. At least everyone has gone off at some point.
Yeah, and we can take a look at the off tracks that they have had this race right here. We're going to see 2 of them, actually. But there's how many X's everybody has, incident points. And if you have over, I believe it's 8 this season, you will not get the safety bonus.
Yeah, with 0, you get 4 points, and with between 1 and 8, you get 3.
So, again, another crucial part of the championship is really going to be brought down to who can keep it clean. I believe, was it you last season that took the safest drivers award?
No, it was Nick Paletti. I was competing for it, but he always had the massive tiebreaker on me of actual scored points.
So you were tied at the end of the season in safety points, however, yeah?
I was tied up to the final race. I decided to just I didn't attend the final race. I wanted him to win it without there being some asterisk of a tiebreaker or something like that. He definitely deserved it because he won basically half the races and had like no incident points in most of them as well.
Yeah, well, he took himself home a tire sign. Can't remember what brand it was, however. Continental tire sign. And similar to the safest driver award, we have the Rookie of the Year award today, this season, which is going to go. Oh, that looks like Antoine DeCache going for a little rally cross there. We have the Rookie of the Year award, which will go to the, I believe it's the highest scoring driver that has never won a E4A race. So right now, it looks like it's going to go to Connor James. However, we're only 1 race in.
He also is not at this race as well.
Yes, so he will not get the Ironman bonus, and he will drop in points at the end of this. He will, however, be taking a drop week and a provisional. So in the case that this is one of his weeks that does get counted somehow, he will score 3 points or 3 places below the lowest scoring driver in his class. So he won't be taking home 0 points.
Yeah, and with a lot of drop weeks in this season, it's not as big of a deal to miss a race as you might initially assume.
No, it definitely is not.
Right now, we're not looking at a bunch of close gaps. We do have Tony Watson, as we're looking at right there on screen, right behind Antoine DeCache. But for the most part, the drivers have spread themselves out. Still waiting to come around to the second pit cycle, of course. But with the top 3 for GTD Pro being Langenberg, Tyler, and Cowger Jr., that's, the top 3 that we've been looking at. Obviously, a while ago, Tyler and Langenberg swapped positions a little bit, but and GTD has had some more swaps with the positions, and we're looking at Mark Dillon Jr., Keith Roycroft, and Christopher Newby in the podium positions right now.
Yeah, Mark Dillon Jr. had a slight little wobble back there, which kind of gave me a scare. There's Marcus Osborne.
Drifting.
I was going to say, he took all 4 drop weeks, or all 3 drop weeks last season, and still came out as the GT4 champion. So, as we were talking about, taking those drop weeks is not a huge problem.
And it also, and furthermore, not just that, but having a bad race, you can absolutely still win a championship with. So Patrick Ripley, we already saw that he left the session. He had a number of bad things happen to him early in this race. He's not out of the championship contention by any means whatsoever.
No, he is not.
So if we're looking right now, trying to see if there's any drivers that are making ground on the cars in front of them. We are seeing in GTD certainly a larger gap between the drivers than in GTD Pro. But Stephen Thompson has quite a lot to gain right now on those. That's Tony Watson spinning. I don't know if that made a collision back there.
Gave me a signal that he crashed. I don't know if he hit it. We'll find out.
And a bit of a tank slapper here.
Nothing happening.
Oh,
great job to avoid him, but definitely not optimal.
That one makes you sweat a little bit, even just watching it.
There's his rejoin, and that looks like, I'm not sure, Stephen Thompson possibly behind him.
And that one hurts to lose it right before a straight as well. You lose so much time compared to the drivers behind you. It's a real killer.
For sure, because you have to accelerate all the way from 0 as opposed to 100. So that's definitely not going to help him. David Levine went off track for a good 12 seconds. Let's see what happened to him. That looks like roller coaster maybe.
Yep.
Just too hot on the...
Oh!
That looks like Lewis Hamilton there.
It's a Mercedes twice. There we go.
Let's take a look back at that one more time.
True Mercedes fashion.
Just goes for a little flight. I hope he buckled his seatbelt.
Man, that was some air. I've been hanging on board with Tyler Langenberg, our race leader. Still looks like tires are giving these cars a little bit of trouble, even with the guys that are way up there at the top. It doesn't look easy to control, and maybe it's just the BMW, but he's certainly not in a calm drive right now.
No.
Performance-wise, he's doing a great job. He's got a great gap behind him, but it looks tough to drive.
Yeah, you want to walk us through the rest of this lap, as we missed it in the qualifying?
Yeah, so he wants to make sure to stay on the inside here so that he can open it up as late as possible. Then you're going to make a little bit of a jink here, and then coming into NASCAR bend, there's no braking point. You don't know where to brake. Coming up on this one, also no braking point, all instinct to just try to not go off track where the sand right is. Coming up to Snake, trying to straight line it as much as you can without, we've seen a couple drivers crash right there. This is a straight up here, which there's really not any passing opportunity here, but he's not fighting anybody. Then you're coming through the climbing S's. You lift on like the last one a little bit, maybe a dab of the brakes, just to give yourself some confidence. Coming into South Bend, we've seen multiple mistakes there. Super easy to go past that. Then you're coming into Oak Tree, which it really tightens up a lot more than you expect. It's not a symmetrical corner. So comes around here, it tightens up, you get a lot of sand on the exit, and then this is the longest straight on the track, the back straight. In real life, they run a little chicane halfway through, but for iRacing and how we're running here, no chicane. So coming all the way up until roller coaster, and you break past the one board, and it's a blind apex that tightens up a lot more than you initially expect. Trying to just ride that curb and get back around, and then you're going to be coming to the final corner of Hogpen, which is a great slingshot if you can take this well and hit that early apex, and then just keep the throttle pinned and manage that steering through to the front straight.
There he goes. That was a wonderful ride we just took. Oh, and to interrupt our regularly scheduled programming, here's James Foreman. Looks like NASCAR bend. A little too late on the brakes, a little too much into the corner, and it's a slight loop. And
yeah, I mean, I just said through the run through, it probably just missing your braking point. There just isn't a braking point. It's just like you just have to evaluate it by just looking at the speed of your car. There's not a landmark that you can look at to brake at.
Misjudged, rather, would be the term there, I guess. But back on with Tyler Langenberg, we're gonna take a trip around the field again. Ooh, that was a nice view we just had there. The fixed camera. Seems that most people are pretty evenly spread out at this point.
Yeah, Keith Roycroft must have had an issue while we were running on board with Tyler Langenberg, because he is now 10 seconds off of Mark Dillon Jr. and only 3 seconds ahead of Newbie. So something's happened to him where he's lost some time.
He went off track, came on track, went off track. So let's take a look at that. Through Snake, just horribly misjudged. Gonna hold Paul Boyle up there. He's gonna have to hit the brakes through this flat-out section. And
I think he just got distracted. I think he got distracted by something, maybe on the radio.
Yep. And then he's gonna go off track one more time, possibly going down to South Bend. Let's see.
Wouldn't surprise me. It's easy to go wide. Yep.
A little bit too much.
Keeps it safe, though.
He didn't lose a lot of time, but it was enough to lose that time to Mark Dillon Jr., who is comfortably out in the lead of this race.
Yeah, Newby down to 2.5. Torrey Croft as well. So we need to keep an eye out on Christopher Newby making a charge here.
Yeah, and we saw Christopher Newby was about 10 seconds out in front once the first pit cycle had gone, and he just kept that lead. So I'm sure Mark Dillon Jr. wants to do the exact same thing. But speaking of pits, we are coming up on the second pit wave here, about 50 minutes in. It's about 25 minutes to a tank, maybe 28, 29.
Yeah, we did see Keith Roycroft pit at about 25 minutes, and he was the first of the field to do so as far as scheduled stops. So we could be seeing it, yeah, in probably the next few minutes would be the first pit cycles, or first pitting for the second cycle starts.
Yeah, we saw about 15 laps in a tank, and we are on lap 10, 9, 8 of those stints. So we will see cars pitting in about 5 laps. As Paul Skip enters the pit lane, right there, nice and smooth. There's Tyler
doing
Lane.
the math. That's still in the pit window, so it's quite early. But with the way that it was with the 3 pits, the fourth stint was going to be really short. So I guess he just decided to make that second stint the short one.
Yeah, here is Tyler Langenberg compared to Ryan Tyler. Ryan Tyler really seems to be cutting down that gap after that mistake in Oak Tree. We see about 5/10, a 10, 3/10, 2/10 faster through each sector. So he's making up a lot of time on him. Let's see here. Our last lap time. Let's see what the difference is here. A 147.4. He was almost a second and a half faster last lap. And you'll see about a second and a half, second and 2/10, second and 6/10 faster than the rest of the field.
I do believe Langenberg had to deal with that traffic that now Tyler is coming up on there. So that would explain some of the loss of time, and Tyler, especially coming up through these S's and the next few turns, will lose time as well.
That is very, very true. You do have to account for traffic, but as of now, he is still losing time, although Matt Odell may hold him up slightly in the Oak Tree. Not a lot, but it's enough.
Yep.
Matt Odell goes off slightly for about a second. Alrighty.
Trying to see. So what are we looking at right now with the fastest lap? I'm interested to see who the fastest laps between the classes are.
Fastest laps. Alright, let's take a look at those. This is currently how we stack up. Mark Dillon Jr. with a 148.2. Ryan Tyler with a 146.4. And that lap right there, I believe, breaks the E4A race lap record of 146.9 set by Michael McCoy back in Season 2. Season 2 was also the only other time that E4A has been to this track. So, a great lap from Ryan. And history being made.
It's an incredible lap, and if the drivers decide, spin right in front of Ryan Tyler. Oh, and he makes a small collision. Small collision. I don't think there's really any damage. Oh, and he spins trying to rejoin. He kept 2 tires off. Oh, that kills this recharge.
Ah.
Oh, what a shame.
Terrible. So that momentum that he had built up, catching Tyler Langenberg, all gone now. Terry Calgary Jr. takes his spot in second place, all the way ahead of those two back-marked cars.
Not his fault, but not the driver in front's fault either. It's just a mistake, you know. Not dirty driving by either one, but just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, awful for him. Take a look. Here's our lap time. The gap to Dylan and Paul Boyle. Daniel Hingley has a moment, or an issue. That looks like NASCAR Ben going just far off. He, Matt Odell went off track and then towed. This looks like Oak Tree.
Yep.
Yeah, spinning. Didn't hit anything, but I guess it's just a confidence.
Yeah, just a little bit of a morale hit, I think, there.
Then Daniel Hingley, once again, has another issue. Paul Boyle, Keith Roycroft and Tony Watson doing a good job to avoid him. Daniel Hingley's been interesting all race. He slowed down that one time and then slowed down and went off track, hit the wall. Not sure what's going on in that corner, but hopefully he's all right.
Yeah, so, I mean, that lead that we were excited to see, contested, now Langenberg 10 seconds ahead of Cowger, which it actually was a little bit of a smaller gap when Cowger inherited second place. So, I mean, long race, but we are over halfway, and Langenberg is firmly sitting in the driver's seat, and it's all for him to play here.
It is very much. We're going to see the pit stops start happening again coming up soon as we approach the pit window. Take another look at that pit strategy. 15 laps. Tyler Langenberg is up a spot. Terry Calgary Jr. is up 2 spots. Stephen Thompson is up 6 spots. It's all gains for everybody. Mark Dillon Jr. is sitting in P9 now overall.
Wow. Yeah, Stephen Thompson has only one off track for the whole race. Him and Paletti both have only a single off track. And, you can see, I mean, they're right next to each other on track for third and fourth. That's how you get up to the front, is if you start somewhere in the middle, maybe you didn't qualify where you thought that you deserved to qualify. If you just stay accident free, you just get free positions throughout the whole race.
Yes, you do. And we saw Patrick Ripley crashed out. We saw... Who else?
We just saw the Ryan Tyler incident.
Ryan Tyler lost a position. Well, many positions. So that's how Stephen Thompson has really gained all that ground on everybody.
Yeah, we've seen Osborne up there ahead of Thompson, and then he had some incidents. So Paul Boyle was up ahead of him, I believe, at the start of the race as well.
Yeah, there's
the merit of keeping it clean.
There's Ryan Tyler looking to catch back up a little bit. He's way down, trying to make a pass on Zach Nurnberger.
Yeah, he's trying not to interfere too much. He knows that Nurnberger is fighting for position with Barton.
That looks scary. I don't know if he's going to make that. He is. Wow. Impressive on the brakes.
Wow. I didn't think it was going to stay either.
Daniel Hingley coming out of the pits. Oh, just a little bit too much into the corner. Turn 1 has been very, very, very scary for everybody.
Yeah, especially with the cars that seem to have a little bit of a more delicate balance. The Mercedes has a tendency to do some off-throttle oversteer. We've seen multiple drivers in the Porsche spin there. The Porsche is just a beast to handle, and it doesn't surprise me that in a little bit of a complicated corner that the car would just lose it there.
Yeah, and I just want to take a moment to appreciate how dirty this car looks. I can't really see it with these cameras, but there's a lot of mud splatter on the side of that car there. Tony Watson, Christopher Newby, and David Levine all crashed together. What happened here? Tony Watson going into Oak Tree. Does he loop it and get hit? He spins.
Oh, he's just
There's
stopped
David
him.
Levine.
Oh, he
That
should have
looks
just
like-
held the brakes.
Is that Ryan Tyler in there, or who is that?
Yeah, that looks like Ryan Tyler. Yeah, that is Ryan Tyler.
Awful. Awful, awful, terrible for Ryan Tyler tonight.
I'm trying to figure out who was the other driver involved in that. That was Christopher Newby as well.
Christopher Newby, yes.
So now look at that gap that he has to. So we had the former GTD Pro leader stuck in that and lose a bunch of time that he was trying to recover, and then Christopher Newby lost over 10 seconds to Mark Dillon in that.
He did indeed. All right. Approaching that 1 hour mark, we're going to see some pit stops coming in pretty soon. We've already seen a few happen.
Yep, there's some drivers like Christopher Newby, for example, just put in.
Yes, Christopher Newby may be going in there for a few repairs, however. Langenberg's going to have to pit soon. Terry Cowger has about another lap. Stephen Thompson has another lap, another 2 laps. But they will be in very soon.
See, Langenberg pitting right now.
Antoine DeCache is right on the back of Aaron Claybaugh, looking to take P7 in class.
We'll see if he has more speed down this straight. It doesn't look like he had as good of an exit, and he actually has Mark Dillon Jr. behind him. More to worry about, not for class, but you know, if Dillon is faster and decides to make that pass, then it really hurts DeCache's momentum to try to get around Claybaugh.
Yeah, and it's not a huge thing, but when somebody's following me, I'm thinking, all right, I got to look in the back, look in the rear mirror, make sure that he's not going to... Oh, there goes Claybaugh off
and
track.
He goes wide. Maybe we're looking in the rear, maybe looking in the rear view mirror right then.
Yeah, I look in the rear view mirror. They're lower class. You never know if they're going to make a mistake, miss their braking point, and you're going to have to dodge them. So that's definitely also in the back of his mind.
That was about as well as it could have gone for Mark Dillon Jr. Not having to get around either of those two drivers if he was faster. Although I believe that, yeah, Tyler Langenberg came out of the pits right in front of him. But, I mean, we've seen the pace that Langenberg's been able to put in. I don't think that will hold up Mark.
Yeah, Tyler Langenberg out of the pits. He's only down to P5. It's about, I'd say, a minute to pit here. And he didn't lose that much, so... Not even
being able to come out that high is a testament to the pace that he's put in.
For sure. All right.
We do have Andrew Neri less than a second now on Nicholas Paletti. On track, 3rd and 4th, but after the pit cycle, I believe that is net 4th and 5th for GTD Pro.
Yes. And going back to Oak Tree, how it fell almost 9 years ago now. How old this track is in iRacing. The cars are just so slightly floating. Kind of shows how much the iRacing model has changed. Just see the tiniest little... it's interesting to me how they've changed.
Yeah, more simple geometry, I guess.
Yes.
But yes, so Neri and Paletti both pit on this lap, although it did look like Neri had a faster pit in. So I'm interested to see if there's going to be a race-off pit exit here.
And there goes our leader into the pits, Mark Dillon Jr. Tyler Langenberg is back out into second. 19 seconds off of Stephen Thompson. We'll see where he ends up coming out. As Antoine DeCache going into Oak Tree, like many others, seems to have some sort of incident.
I was really late in the corner to have that happen.
Yeah,
It just seemed like he was fine.
some random oversteer. You saw the brakes, tap the brakes before we switched the camera there, and just could not save it. Very unfortunate for him.
I don't think any driver can feel bad about having any of these incidents, though. I think it's quite clear that it's been a brutal track for everybody, and any of these mistakes any driver could make.
That is so very true. It's a Very, very tricky track with all 17 of its corners. However,
Ooh, Osborne 2/10 on David Levine in front. That is close. They're about to go through Snake, and he is hounding him right now.
there they are.
He's going to try to go out to the climbing S's here. He
And he
did that
gets it
earlier
done.
in this race, and he's done it again.
So that makes me wonder, was that David Levine or was it Ryan Tyler that was caught up in that oak tree crash?
It was, oh, you know what? Good point. They do have very similar looking cars. I do think that was David Levine, now that I'm looking at their cars. Good call on that. They have the exact same color Mercedes.
There's the two side by side. They're right behind each other on track, or right next to each other on track. So it was David Levine, not Ryan Tyler. There's the floating.
Easy to
Porsche
get him
with Paul
confused
Skip.
from the front, for sure.
Matt Odell going off track. What happened to him? 6 seconds.
Oh, just dipped into the grass.
Ooh, not huge contact. It's gonna shake him up, but he will be all right.
Yeah, interesting one. Yeah, he dipped on the grass on the corner entry, so he just was trying to open up the corner for himself, and just a little bit too wide.
Yep. Mark Dillon Jr. though, our leader. Ooh.
Oh, nailed that curb there. He can't hit that one.
No, you cannot. He spent 6 seconds off track there.
He did have a huge gap to second behind him, though.
He did. That gap is now only 2
Wow.
seconds, however. Keith Roycroft
Wow.
here in the Audi. That's not a wonderful camera
Where did
angle.
that come from? They are on the same pit strategy, right?
Let's take a look at that. If we can see.
I'm interested because we haven't mentioned Roycroft in a little bit. Newbie was the one who was looking to be in second place. Obviously, he got involved in that crash earlier.
This is Brad McCombs going into turn one. A little bit too much on the brakes. A little too little, I suppose. And
Ooh, that was close.
off he goes. Doesn't
That
look
Mercedes,
like he caused
turn
trouble.
one.
Yeah, it's not ideal tonight.
Okay, so Ryan Tyler is making his way back through the field. He's about to make a move on Osborne here into roller coaster. I think that Osborne's probably going to back off. He is
No.
not backing off, actually. They are side by side in roller coaster.
This is a battle
Never
for
mind.
position, remember. It's not one in GTD Pro, one in GTD M like we see ever so often. This is a battle for position. Oh,
yeah.
but he lets him go by anyways.
Yeah, he just went a little bit wide. No sense creating a collision. I think he knows that Tyler's trying to charge back through the field.
Yes, indeed. There is David Levine into the pits.
Hopefully he gets that, yeah, there we go. Got that fast repair. He had some crunch on the back of his car there.
Yes, the drivers get 2 fast repairs each. And I'm sure David Levine will be happy that he could use his.
I'm baffled at how Steven Thompson is stretching these fuel stints. No one else has done 17 laps on any stint, and he's now done 17 on both. I mean, maybe it'll come to, give him some time at the end of the race, but surely he has to pit here. Otherwise, he's doing some sort of illegal fuel strategy that I didn't know about.
Well, it's only illegal if you get caught, but he's definitely our best performer on fuel here. There he goes into the pit lane. That is the second longest stint. I think he's the only person with a 17-lap stint, and 2 of them for sure.
Yeah, and we're down to just 35 minutes remaining, so I'm trying to do that math in my head. He unfortunately will just be a few minutes away from... I wonder if he came in trying to do that, trying to do just a 2-pit, but he's going to be just a little bit short.
I mean, he could if he really fuel saves. He's got... Well, he doesn't really have much of a cushion to his... well, I guess he does, really. 40 seconds to 4th place. So if
he goes wide, Thompson goes wide in turn 1. A little bit of cold tires. He's all right. It's just on his pit exit there. But tires cooled off during that pit stop and just didn't quite account for it.
That always gets everybody, especially because you come back out onto worn tires.
Yeah, it'll be like you'd have to. I feel like it would be too much fuel to save though to try to do a 2-stop, because I mean you come down at the end. It's a really short pit lane. As far as most of the time you lose in the pit lane is the refueling, not the pitting itself. So this is a pretty forgiving pit lane. It's just that they fuel the cars up so slowly that it sucks to have to pit.
Very, very true. Alright. Zach Nurnberger is in 4th place right now, following Christopher Newby. He's currently tied with Connor James right now in the standings, however, after tonight. He'll easily blow past him, as Connor's not here. Patrick Ripley, our championship leader in GTD Pro, has retired from the race. Tyler Langenberg from P5, I believe that he will be promoted to 1st. And let's take a look at our fastest laps. Who's that going to for right now? Nobody on the screen at the moment. Ryan Tyler still. He had the fastest lap at Daytona. He's going to have it now. If the race was to end right now.
Yeah, I mean, if the drivers haven't taken tires yet, which I don't think they have, then they're certainly not going to be taking tires at the end here. So that probably is going to stay as the fastest lap for the race.
Yes, most likely it will. Let's see what else we got.
I mean, certainly we have 3 drivers right there fighting for, what is that, 10th, 11th, 12th in class that we're looking at on screen. I mean,
yep.
This is all on the same lap in the same class, and they are close to each other.
Yeah, very, very, very tight. That's David Levine, Antoine Cash, and Paul Skip. Let's take a look at that livery on Paul Skip's car, the John Player Special. It's a beautiful, very beautiful car. Nice close up there.
Yes, that's that specific one right there. I know was made by Keith Roycroft. He made that great John Player Special Porsche just for him, just for Paul.
Paul has been known to run John Player Special cars. He had a pretty much identical RSR painted like that, except with a pony on the side. Of course, we did away with GTEs, and now he's here again with a GT3R.
I appreciate the livery consistency. It really helps us out as commentators trying to figure out who's who.
It definitely does, and especially
Levine right in front. He had just gotten in the grass. That was close. He lets Paul skip by. Wow, he almost really flew it into the wall.
Yeah, McCoy's into the pits. McCombs, sorry.
Yeah, he's actually disconnected. He left the session.
He must have had some sort of incident. He towed. Oh, in snake. That'll get you right into the wall.
And just a couple laps before, I'd heard he was on the radio, and he talked about how much he hated this track. So that was it for him.
I feel you, Brad. You can see really the wear of the race on the side of these cars. Just the mud, not mud, but the dust that sticks to the doors. I love that detail of iRacing. So subtle yet it's awesome to me.
What happened with Stephen Thompson?
Stephen Thompson now in P6.
I think that he did his final pit one lap later. I think he did a NASCAR strategy, like pit 2 laps in a row. Can you check the pit strategy on that? It looks like he pit back-to-back laps.
There's confirmation now. We'll have to see when he crosses the line. Tony Watson.
I see lap 35 was 2 minutes 22 seconds. Lap 36 was 2 minutes 1 second.
Let's just take a look at Tony Watson quick. Right in the barrier in Oak Tree. Unfortunate for him. And Matt Odell, was he caught up in a rejoin there? What happened to him? Take a look back at that pit strategy board in just a second. This is NASCAR Bend. Just a little bit too hot there. Misjudged the corner. Back to the pit strategy. It doesn't look like Stephen Thompson took a second pit.
Where did he lose all that time from? That's what I'm confused about.
I'm not seeing anything in my timing screen of him going off track or spinning.
Yeah.
Interesting. You can take a look at his off tracks as well. Sitting at 2x, so he hasn't got a loss of control or anything like that.
I'm at a loss where I thought we were looking at him being in the net like podium positions, but I guess maybe we were confused with the pit strategy between the drivers.
Yeah, that's very possible. Here's Mark Dillon Jr. He had a 10-second lead at one point. That's down to 3.1 seconds from Keith Roycroft behind. Tony Watson entered pit lane 3 times in a row, apparently, and then he left it 3 seconds later. He's having some issues there. Ooh, Steve Bartlett. What happened to him? That WeatherTech Mercedes, turn 1. I think we all know what happens next.
And it just
there it is.
It just looks it looks like I don't know if you've played the new F1 Manager game, but there's like they only have like a handful of like crash animations or like lockup animations. And it looks exactly like that, where every Mercedes that we've seen go through that turn 1 and have an incident looks identical to each other.
It does indeed. That is pretty funny, actually. Just shows how easy it is to spin there, especially in the Mercedes, which is known to be a kind of a snap oversteer kind of car.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at least it's, just a few seconds lost. Man, is it frustrating.
Definitely is. Here's Ryan Tyler on Nicholas Belletti into turn 1. Gets the move done on the brakes. That's for P3 overall. We're going to stick with that group there. That was a great pass by Ryan.
Yeah, he's putting in some charging laps. I mean, we saw, the stuff that happened to him earlier in the race, and he really, fell out of contention. And he is, 18 seconds off of Terry Cowger Jr., so this may be, where the charge ends, but, I mean, he kind of came out of nowhere to put himself up on the podium again.
Yeah, he's definitely got the pace. You take a look, 2.5 seconds, 2 8/10, 2.5 seconds. He has that pace to make it up there. Maybe not Terry Cowger Jr. by the end of the race with only 25 minutes left, but he's got pace. That is for sure.
All it takes, I mean, I don't think that, a little bit too much speed. But going back to Ryan Tyler, I don't think I need to tell anyone that it's very easy for any of these drivers to make a mistake. So one mistake by Langenberg or Cowger, and Tyler might be looking at gaining yet another position.
That's definitely true. And Andrew Neary, he's in the Mercedes. We see Ryan Tyler's in the Mercedes. Who's that going into the pits there?
That's James maybe Foreman. Some overspeed coming into turn 1 here. On Nick Belletti.
Back at them. He's going to back off, however. He knows it's dangerous in that Mercedes if you're just a little bit too late on the brakes.
Ferrari's a really stable car. It allows drivers to push quite a lot. I don't think it's really the best at any one thing, but it's a great all-rounder.
It definitely is. I believe that's what you took your all of your safety points in last season.
Yes, it was very on purpose. It's a predictable car.
That's what we drove at the Spa 24 and finished 5th, managing to not get a drive-through. We did get a meatball. Did you get 2 meatballs? I got a meatball just because I ran the tires so low. Not so
I
down.
got a meatball. Tyler got a meat. There was at least a few. but it's a long race.
Yes. Just like this one is, but not so much anymore, as there's 25 minutes remaining.
Yeah, we're now getting down to like, a GT sprint kind of length. So the aggression, when the drivers get up near each other is going to be a lot higher. We don't have a lot of gaps that are super close, especially GTD. GTD, some of these gaps are almost every single one is over 10 minutes, other than our race for the lead, which is actually down to 1.2. What's happening with Dylan? He just lost like 6/10 there, and
This is all in the straight. That may have been the exit in the slipstream.
I think he had a bad oak tree. Wow, yeah, he just lost a ton of time there to Keith Roycroft.
Definitely possible.
Right as I was saying that.
Keith is within 1 second now. Here's Ryan Glover. Let's see what happened to him real quick. Through left hook into snake. A little bit too much on there. Back out in front. The gap's now 3/10. 6/10 now, 7/10. A little bit higher. Into the pits is Mark Dillon Jr., however. Keith Roycroft inherits the lead. Now, whoever gets the better entrance here could be who comes out on top. Mark Dillon Jr. looks like he had a pretty decent entrance. We're going to see how long he takes in the box.
Yeah, I think he had, he had a mistake on that lap, and he just sometimes, when you're in that pit window, taking that pit can help really reset your mental framework and get you back with getting that flow on the track.
Yeah, Mark Dillon Jr. is out of the pit lane. 35 seconds that he lost there. He spent 13 seconds in the pit box. So, could see...
Comes out immediately behind Zach Nurnberger. See if Nurnberger plays nice with him and lets him by or not. Obviously, they're not fighting for the same net position, but if I know Nurnberger, I don't think that he's just going to let him by.
Stephen Thompson actually had an 18-lap stint last stint. Very
Crazy.
Impressive from him. It looks like a very awfully early pit stop from Mark Dillon Jr. Definitely what you were saying, clear his head, get back into the focus, and get going again.
Unfortunately, he put him back in traffic.
It did. I'm not sure that he really accounted for that, but...
You can't really, and when it's just you, if you had a real life spotter and all that, then you can do it. But it's unfortunately not something that iRacing helps you figure out.
No, it is not. Here's Nicholas Paletti and Andrew Neri. Keith Roycroft is into the pits now. He's also pitting very early, so we're gonna see where these two come out.
Yeah, I think he's trying to avoid the undercut, and once maybe he needs to pit right now. I don't think 13. I think that he wants to get the position decided now.
Take a look.
And
Mark Dillon Jr. is coming out of the final turn now.
Nürburgring pits.
Let's take a look at where they shuffle out now.
Wow, big loss for Roycroft there.
Yeah, Mark Dillon Jr. really had it in the pits. Keith took 5 seconds more fuel than Mark Dillon Jr. did. Could be a fuel calculation mistake, or crew chief just was not working or something, but
We saw that happen last week.
a lot of extra fuel taken.
Yeah, 5 seconds is quite a bit. So interesting development there. But yeah, that really kills what was a sub 1 second gap before that pit cycle.
Yeah, that's definitely kind of sad. I was looking forward to seeing a finish kind of like Daytona last week. But we will see one with Nick Paletti. Oh, never mind.
Oh, man.
Nick Paletti pits, and there's kind of a silence on the track right now in terms of battles for position.
Every time we're about to see something, there's a pit or a mistake or something.
Yeah, there's Christopher Newby, our GTD AM leader, but that's only because of the fuel strategy right now. Steve Bartlett, let's see what happened to him. Maybe. There we go. Through South Bend into Oak Tree.
and some Mercedes liftoff oversteer.
Who would have thought?
I have to wonder if this will stay. It was certainly a popular pick last season. I wonder if the Mercedes will stay as popular. I mean, sometimes drivers stick with the same car throughout the whole season. That's what I've always done. But the drivers that do like to switch cars, they may like dump it for another front engine car like the BMW, which seems to be doing better.
It does. But all right. Back out on track are most people other than Antoine Decache. Marcus Osborne is trying to track down Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, going down the back straight now. I think he's been catching up slightly over the last few laps, but he certainly has not been this close yet.
No, he
hasn't.
hasn't.
Would be going for 5th place. Oh, okay. Stephen Thompson just lets him have it.
So we're going to come back to this battle. David Levine, Paul Boyle, Mark Dillon Jr., Christopher Newby. They're all rather close to each other. Paul Skip has an incident and goes off track. He looks to be... Here's him coming on track. That looks like the final turn. Just went a little bit wide. Here's Michael Del Sala into roller coaster. Nothing. Said he crashed, but it was a Mercedes.
A well-taken roller coaster by De La Sala.
It was a Mercedes. I was expecting them to spin right at the crest there, but managed to hold on to it. All right.
Still waiting on Newbie to come into pit for the class lead. He, as you can see there, he's only had his 2 pit stops so far. He's still got to do his last one. 18 minutes to go. It's just a little bit of a splash and dash, but with only with a 15-second gap to Mark Dillon Jr., he may come out in even out of the podium places. I'm interested to see when he does so.
Yeah, if I were him, I'd run that fuel down so I don't have to take as much fuel in the pit lane because it's so slow. But we'll see how that happens. We're going to take a quick break with about 15 minutes to go, and we'll be back sooner than you know. All right, We are back. It was not too long. Here's Andrew Neri looking at the back of Mark Dillon Jr.'s car, and Aaron Clayball is right behind him. So he's looking to get ahead and not be caught up with Aaron.
Yeah, we also simultaneously have James Foreman. They were right next to each other. Lost a few tenths there, but him and Christopher Craig were right next to each other for, I believe, 7th and 8th in a 4th class position.
There's Antoine Ducash, a little bit too happy with the throttle out of that looks like left hook, or the second part of left hook, and just loops it around.
Ooh.
Andrew Neri now.
Looked like he dummied a pit there.
Yeah, with the run on Mark Dillon Jr., they're both going to get it. Mark Dillon Jr.'s, is he going to let him by easy? Not really. Yes, they will. Oh.
Yeah, I think Mark's just trying to stay out of trouble for now. Again, a 3-second gap to Roycroft. So Roycroft has made back 2 seconds out of that over 5-second gap that he had coming out of the pits. But 14 minutes to go, that pace has to increase.
Yeah, Nick Terrell's in there cheering for Andrew Neri. He's watching from the infamous kickball game that prevents him from coming tonight.
It's important kick.
Special shout out. He's on the leaderboard. He's leading his class. He hasn't turned a single lap, but he's leading.
He will win.
He will win against Dennis Diaz. That makes it a 1-to-1 matchup. Because Dennis is not here. There's Andrew. Ooh, Aaron Clayball getting a little squirrely out of Oak Tree. Marcus Osborne is into the
getting aggressive for
pit
sure.
lane now.
Yep, and also as we pointed out last week with Daytona, that the pro classification seems to be a pretty apt descriptor. Right now, the top 8 positions on track are all pros. So, these guys they get the label whether they've been over 2,000 iRating or if they've won a previous championship. Also, with a couple of them, they've applied for pro licenses. They've certainly been showing up and showing why they have that designation for their own class.
Yeah, I think it was probably about the same last week. The top 9 are all pro drivers, and then that's most of the pro drivers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people that are 7 of the pro drivers are behind AM drivers, but some of them have had incidents, like Patrick Ripley and Bryce Anderson. They are both out of this race. Brad McCombs, he had some issues. Is he still running? I do not believe
he
so.
had left a little bit ago.
So only 4 of them that are still running are slower than amateur drivers. They can still have incidents as well.
I just wanted to mention that I think Nick Terrell's support for Andrew Neri has come to fruition there, because he's now pulled 2 seconds over to it's 2.8 seconds on Aaron Clayball behind.
Yeah, that's a very sizable gap. But look at Keith Roycroft behind Mark Dillon Jr.
Wow,
he's catching up ever so quickly. Steve Bartlett goes off track. Only 2 seconds, however.
Yeah, I watched Clayball make a couple mistakes, and that's backed Dillon up a little bit into Keith Roycroft. And now he's looking at him. Roycroft's looking right at Dillon Jr. for the class win with just 10 minutes to go.
I'm sure he's not too thrilled about that. Ooh, there it is. Keith Roycroft from the gearbox camera. A little bit too much.
Oh, man.
That's going to take him. That is Steve Bartlett. We want Keith Roycroft. There we go. A little bit too much down the hill. I
haven't seen anybody have mistakes there in general.
Yeah. Ooh, that rejoin looks scary. He's all right, though. Tony Watson has an issue as well. I think the replay that we had of Steve Bartlett there was just another one of the Turn 1 Mercedes. As
we got Turn 1 Porsche.
Tony Watson has the same mistake as well. just a little bit too wide. He
Dude,
doesn't spin.
It's so weird too. We've seen the Porsche do that where it goes deep, and then we've seen the Mercedes where it spins early.
They're all just pre-programmed replays, I guess. But there's Mark Dillon Jr. He now has a 12-second lead over Christopher Newby. Christopher Newby is going to keep that lead he has in the championship, as well as Tyler Langenberg looking pretty good for a win. However, that huge gap that he had earlier is now only 2 seconds. So he does have a chance to lose it. I mean, anybody can lose it at this point. With 10 minutes to go, mistakes still do happen.
Yeah, interested to see that go down so much. Maybe he's just managing the gap tires-wise, but we could be looking at something more serious as far as Terry Cotter Jr. making an attack for first place right at the end of the race.
Yeah. We'll watch that gap as it goes down. Andrew Neri on Marcus Osborne into turn 1. Not going to go for it. He's going to sit there. In the back, there's Matt Odell, followed by, looks like, is that Mark Dillon Jr.? I believe so.
Claybaugh and then Mark Dillon Jr.
Yes. Oh, Claybaugh's back there. That's the red Ferrari.
The Chick-fil-A branded Ferrari.
It's a great choice. Andrew Neri chasing down that P7 spot. He very much wants it. He got a great speed, and he's going to have the slipstream. I love it when he does that.
It's a great camera. Yeah, like I said, there's no, you can't make any moves here in the climbing S's. You can stay close. Oh, that was close. There, he almost got in the gravel there. Scared me for a second. And then Osborne almost went wide in South Bend. So these drivers are driving on the edge right now, and I think they're scaring each other a little bit.
They are for sure. Andrew Neri up front. There's Matt Odell and Aaron Claybaugh not for position. We're going to go back up to Marcus Osborne. Most of them have taken their second stop, or their third stop, I should say. Ryan Glover coming out of the pit lane as well.
Still looking to see if Thompson is doing a like bizarre, magical two-stop race. I've seen him in the Infra, our NASCAR for amateurs. I've seen him do some crazy fuel strats before. Osborne was a little wide there. He's going to lose that position.
There goes Andrew Neri.
But I have seen Stephen Thompson do some crazy fuel strats in NASCAR, and maybe he's going to try it here too.
Ryan Glover also just went through the pit lane, but he did not stop in a pit box, it doesn't say. So I'm wondering what happened to him. He does not have the incidents for a drive-through.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, as far as looking at the race lead, that's right there. That's a 2.3 second gap. Terry Cotter Jr. can see Tyler Langenberg just slightly down the road. And, I mean, I know that Terry Cotter Jr. is definitely a driver that has the capability.
There goes Antoine DeCash. So it started, actually, Steve Bartlett kind of went off track a little bit, scared Antoine, and then just trying to dodge him, sent him spinning. He's into the pit lane.
Go there.
Either for a change of tires, a fast repair. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it gives me the entered pit lane when they go into the pit entrance, because it was a 0.13 second stop in the pit lane.
Makes sense. But no, as I was saying with Terry Cotter Jr., and he's proven it to me right now, is that when he has a driver in his sights, he can really unlock some extra pace, especially late in the race. He just does such a great job of really getting focused in on a goal, and we are now down to 1.1 seconds between the two. That's down like a second from when they just crossed the line.
Yeah, they are getting up there. while they are there, here is Keith Roycroft. He passed David Levine for P12 not too long ago. And
Not for
Marcus
position.
Osborne- No, not for position. Just overall, which doesn't really give you anything. But back out in front, Tyler Langenberg and Terry Cowger Jr. He is being chased down. Getting towards
Last
the
week
end.
we didn't really get this opportunity. Patrick Ripley won by so much that we weren't even able to pay attention to the GTD Pro win at the line. But I mean, it's looking like this is going to be something that's going to go to the very end of the race.
Yeah, we can take a look at the gap here. 5 laps ago, Tyler Langenberg was 20 seconds behind. That was during the pit cycle. But I guess it kind of skews our graph proportions there.
We need a larger data set.
Yeah, but Antoine DeCache has had an incident. Terry Cowger Jr. now within a second of Tyler Langenberg. This is
And
gonna
Ryan
be
Tyler
tight.
within a second on Thompson. Is Thompson running out of fuel? Thompson just let him by. I think he's running out of fuel right now.
He really-
I think that he's really struggling.
I think that he committed to that 2-stop and he's just seeing it through however he can.
He has to at this point.
Tyler Langenberg managed to pull away a little bit more, get rid of that 1-second gap, but they're right on the barrier there. Getting a little slidey through the oak tree there. it
Man,
looks
we got
like.
four currently sub-second pairs right now of drivers. All this stuff is unlocking with 3 minutes to go. Boyle on Paletti, Osborne on Neri. We just saw Thompson fall away from Tyler, but wow.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure who to look at. We'll keep an eye on Tyler Langenberg if Terry gets close. Paul Boyle seems to be the closest right now, within 0.3 of Nicholas Paletti. That is his teammate.
They were certainly racing each other earlier in this race, so there's no team orders. There's no playing nice and giving each other position. Paul wants this position.
For sure, and he's going to fight it all the way to the end in true Paul Boyle fashion. Antoine DeCache, what happened to him? Oh, Stephen Thompson. Looks like he goes with him. Let's take a look back to where this all started. Stephen Thompson goes, oh. They didn't even have any contact with each other. It's just Stephen Thompson a little wide.
Terry
and-
Cowger is on Langenberg's bumper. They almost touched there in after NASCAR bends. It looks like Terry's able to go a lot faster through those slow corners than Langenberg is able to. Langenberg's able to pull a little bit of the gap when they get to more on throttle stuff, but they got really close. And we're probably looking at 1 lap to go when they hit the line. So like this is it was 0.49 at the line. It's currently 0.7.
Yeah, it's going to be close. We're coming up to that white flag. Paul Boyle still looking to get past Nicholas Paletti as they go down the straight. Let's take a look back to him. Here they are going through the S's. Antoine DeCache, Keith Roycroft crashes as well. Paul Boyle is so very close.
And Nierenberger then is able to take P3 for the GTD class.
Zach Nurnberger is up into P3. Good job, Zach. David Levine
Imagine
now.
they're getting the white flag right now.
There it is, flying.
Yep, there it is. Yep.
There's Paul Boyle as well. We're going to take a look at them for the last lap because they are the leaders. I don't know if Terry has it in him anymore.
He can brake so much later. This is not the section where you're really able to pass, unfortunately.
It seems like
But-
he's... Well, it's still possible. I mean, anything's possible.
He's so close right there.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of passing that you can do in this area. Maybe he can look for a run like Marcus Osborne has done going into the S's, the uphill S's. A love this camera. It shakes when they go by. He doesn't have the speed, however. He's going to have to get a great exit out of Oak Tree and use that slipstream down the straight. Paul Boyle got ahead of Nicholas Paletti, by the way. We can take a look at how that happens after. He needs this exit, Terry Cowger Jr. does.
I think Cowger had a better exit.
He definitely did. Terry Cowger Jr. now has the slipstream. Got a great exit on the final lap of this race.
Oh, he's coming down. He might send it.
Oh, it's going to be close.
How late on the brakes is he going to be?
Into roller coaster. Terry Cowger Jr.
Oh, they touch.
Just can't make it.
Oh, he just doesn't. Man, if
that
he just
might
had
have been
a
his
couple
last
more miles an
chance.
hour.
Oh, he's going.
Oh.
Can he make it happen? It doesn't look like it.
He cannot. Wow.
Here he comes. Tyler Langenberg taking his 17th win overall in Pony Express. Wins in Virginia. Takes the win for GTD Pro.
Steely defense by Langenberg.
Mark Dillon Jr., here he is. Going in the uphill S's. Looking to keep it clean for the last half of the lap.
Boyle just got around Thompson as well. Thompson is definitely like out of fuel.
He's going to need a push from somebody. I'm sure we may see Zach Nurnberger giving him a little push to the line. But Mark Dillon Jr. now, 6-second gap back to Christopher Newby. He can relax and take his time crossing the line. He very much deserves this win. Great drive overall from him. Oh! No way. No way. No. Surely he'll hold on to that, however. This reminds me.
Oh, man.
Wow. That was close. Mark Dillon Jr. takes the win in GTD Am. Wow. That reminds me very much of a moment back in the Green Hell 3 hours where Sam said, Eduardo Corna had a great steady race. He deserves this P5. And then I missed the pit lane and brake. Oh, and Corna's braked. He's missed the pit lane. He's reversing on track.
And it goes to show that any gap is important to have. And it just decided to kind of let off a little bit at the end of that race.
That looks
and
like.
Then had that incident. He was not going to come out with that win there.
That's how Paul Boyle got past Nicholas Paletti. Looks like he just kind of gave it to him. And let's take a look at how he got past Stephen Thompson. I'm pretty sure he was pretty much out of gas as well.
Thompson almost didn't reach the line. Thompson ended up losing 3 spots in the last lap, I believe. Paletti passed him at the line while Thompson was essentially not moving.
Just couldn't make it work. So, let's take a look at our results for tonight. And we'll take a look at overall. That's our qualifying. Or we'll take a look at class specific. Starting with GTD. Mark Dillon Jr. takes his win. That is his 14th career Pony Express win. Christopher Newby, last week's winner, takes 2nd place, followed by Zach Nurnberger, Keith Roycroft, Christopher Craig, James Foreman, Michael Della Sala, Steve Bartlett, Ryan Glover, Matt Odell, Daniel Higley, Daniel Real, and Daniel Barnett. Here's our
be named
GTD
Daniel
Pro.
in this race, I guess. GTD Pro, the order that we had for this race, our race leader, overall race leader, Tyler Langenberg. Only 3 seconds back was Terry Cowger Jr. in 2nd, and rounding out the podium, Ryan Tyler. The remaining results were Paul Boyle fighting his way back up to 4th, followed by Nicholas Paletti, Stephen Thompson on his crazy fuel strategy, Andrew Neri, Aaron Claybaugh, Marcus Osborne, Paul Skip, David Levine, Antoine DeCash, Tony Watson, Brad McCombs, Patrick Ripley, and Bryce Anderson.
What a race we had there. There's also one more driver that we missed, Mr. Nick Terrell, who did not participate, but he won. So congratulations, Nick.
Not a single mistake. Only driver 0x.
Exactly. Tyler Langenberg did take the win. He led 35 out of the 55 laps here tonight. Just a wonderful performance from him. Stephen Thompson was 20 seconds short on fuel. That's very unfortunate. Almost just barely made that two-stop work there. All right. Let's take our standings back to the overall. This is how they stack up against each other. Oh, we see the Doge Squad Racing boys out on track.
Yes, they're running information.
Some photo ops going. This is how the drivers finished overall. No points for overall, however. Oh, they're smashing each other. There we go. Alrighty. We're going to get some interviews going. First in here, we've got a lengthy line. We might as well start with our overall winner, Mr. Tyler Langenberg. Maybe. Tyler, that was a wonderful race from you. Walk us through it.
It was some great racing tonight. Yeah, just had fun with Ryan in the first half, or in the first stint, and then after he had his little tech issue spin, or his spin in the first stint, and then his tech issue in the second stint. It was at that point it was mine to win. So, and then of course Terry had his hard charge at the end. So, yeah, I'd say it was a pretty good race for me. So.
Yeah, that was very, very, very close at the end there. What kind of result were you expecting tonight?
Well, my main goal is just keep it out of the grass, keep it out of the wall every week, and that seems to be working. Keep it off other cars as well.
All right, and what's
So that's just my general mindset going into the week. Like obviously practice, but then you got to go into the race and then do that same stuff, you know?
Yeah. What's your big takeaway from the night?
Taking one tire on the stop was worth it.
Yeah. Well, Australian
Yeah,
supercars.
I've done that before. I've done that before prior to this season, and it's worked most of the time. Sometimes I would just need one more lap, kind of like how Terry did, but I think we both took a front left at the second stop, I believe. Second or third.
Yeah, that's interesting. We weren't able to, the pit stop times weren't long enough for us to catch that, but I'm wondering how much of the field did that. I was wondering. I know that some of the drivers were complaining about high track temperatures and difficulty with grip. Was that something you were experiencing in your car?
I don't really think it was necessarily the heat that had me the loss of traction. It was the hot temperatures that wore out my tires a bit quicker than normal. So I don't think the heat itself didn't necessarily affect my traction. It was the heat affecting the tire wear, because I'll admit I was driving it a bit hard in the first half.
Yeah, we watched some onboards, and it definitely looked active on the wheel, but that was a really impressive drive. I think that you can be quite proud of that. You fought with both Ryan Tyler and Terry Calgary Jr. during that race, and you came out on top with that. So that was a really good result, and you will continue a great season. How are you feeling about next week?
I don't even know what next week is. I don't think we're racing next week.
Oh, yeah, you are right. We are taking 1 week off in anticipation of potentially some iRacing service messing it up. But the next race is Long Beach. So with the